Kevin Hill's eyes widen in shock as the bathroom door slides open, revealing a curious Everin scientist. Her bioluminescent skin casts an eerie glow in the small space, illuminating her startled expression as she catches sight of his exposed genitals. "By the celestial spheres!" Xena exclaims, her voice echoing through the corridors of the celestial harmony. "What manner of appendage is that?" Kevin scrambles to cover himself, his face flushing red with embarrassment. He fumbles for words, acutely aware of the growing crowd of Everin crew members gathering outside the bathroom. It's just human anatomy," he stammers, desperately trying to maintain his composure. As a 28-year-old astronaut representing Earth on this crucial diplomatic mission, he knows the fate of interstellar relations hangs in the balance. The last thing he expected was for his physical differences to become the center of attention. Xena's fascination is palpable as she leans closer, her luminous skin pulsing with excitement. "But how does it function? We Evora have no such external protrusions." The murmurs of the gathered crew grow louder, a mix of curiosity and concern, spreading like wildfire through the ship. Kevin's mind races, searching for a way to explain human physiology without further compromising the mission or his dignity. Suddenly, the imposing figure of Captain Zorlax pushes through the crowd, his bioluminescence flaring with authority. "What is the meaning of this disturbance?" he demands, his gaze shifting between Kevin and Xena. Kevin steps out of the bathroom, fully dressed but still red-faced. "Captain, I apologize for the confusion. It seems there's been a cultural misunderstanding regarding human anatomy." Zorlax's eyes narrow. "Explain. Now, or I'll have no choice but to abort this mission and return you to Earth, too." The weight of responsibility settles on Kevin's shoulders. He takes a deep breath, knowing that his next words could make or break the alliance between humans and Evora. "Sir, humans and Evora have different reproductive systems. What Xena saw is a natural part of human male anatomy." Xena interjects, her voice filled with excitement. "Captain, this could be a groundbreaking discovery. We must learn more about human physiology." Zorlax raises a hand to silence her. "This is highly irregular. Such intimate discussions are taboo among our people. How can we trust a species so fundamentally different from our own?" Kevin feels the tension in the air, sensing that the Evora are on the verge of withdrawing from the alliance. He needs to find a way to bridge the gap between their cultures, to show that despite their physical differences, humans and Evora can work together. As he prepares to speak, Kevin notices Xena's gaze lingering on him, a mix of curiosity and something more. He realizes that this incident has sparked not just a diplomatic crisis, but also a personal connection between them. The challenge now is to navigate both the political implications and the growing attraction, all while upholding his duty as Earth's representative. With the fate of interstellar relations hanging in the balance, Kevin takes a step forward, ready to face the challenge head-on. He knows that in the next few moments, he'll need to find a way to turn this embarrassing incident into an opportunity for understanding and cooperation between their species. Kevin took a deep breath, his heart pounding as he faced Captain Zorlax and the gathered Everin crew. "Captain, I believe this situation presents an opportunity for both our species to learn from each other. Perhaps we could arrange a more formal discussion about our biological differences." Zorlax's bioluminescence pulsed thoughtfully. "A bold suggestion, human. Very well. I shall convene an emergency meeting with the High Council. You will attend and explain yourself." As Kevin nodded, relief washing over him, Zorlax turned to address the crowd. "Return to your stations. This matter will be handled through proper channels." The gathered Evora dispersed, leaving Kevin alone with Xena and the captain. Zorlax fixed Kevin with a stern gaze. "Report to the council chambers in 1 hour. Do not be late." As Zorlax strode away, Kevin found himself alone with Xena. Her luminous skin pulsed with a soft, mesmerizing glow. I apologize for the intrusion earlier," she said, her voice filled with genuine remorse and lingering curiosity. "I had no idea humans were so different." Kevin managed a weak smile. "It's okay. I guess we both learned something new today." Xena's eyes lit up. "Indeed, I must research human physiology immediately. Perhaps we can discuss it further after your meeting with the council. Before Kevin could respond, she hurried off, leaving him to prepare for the most important diplomatic meeting of his life. An hour later, Kevin stood before the Everin High Council, acutely aware of the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. The chamber hummed with tension as he began his explanation of human biology and cultural norms. Esteemed council members, Kevin began, his voice steady despite his nerves. While our anatomical differences may seem significant, they do not diminish our potential for cooperation and mutual understanding. He proceeded to give a concise overview of human reproductive biology, careful to maintain a respectful and scientific tone. As he spoke, he noticed the council members' bioluminescence flickering in various patterns, indicating a mix of reactions. One council member, her skin pulsing with skepticism, interrupted. How can we trust a species so fundamentally different from our own? These biological incompatibilities could pose unforeseen risks. Kevin was about to respond when the chamber doors slid open, revealing Xena. Her skin glowed with excitement as she approached the council. Honorable members, I've made a remarkable discovery. Captain Zorlax's bioluminescence flared with annoyance. Scientist Xena, this is a closed session. Explain your intrusion. Xena bowed respectfully. My apologies, Captain, but my findings are directly relevant to this discussion. I've conducted extensive research on human physiology using our ship's database. Despite our contrasting reproductive systems, humans and Evora share more similarities than differences. The council chamber buzzed with murmurs as Xena presented her preliminary findings. Kevin watched in amazement as she deftly explained the commonalities between their species, from cellular structures to basic physiological processes. As Xena concluded her impromptu presentation, she turned to the council with a bold request. To gather more conclusive data, I propose conducting a thorough medical examination of Kevin. This would provide invaluable insights into human biology and help dispel any lingering concerns about compatibility. The council members exchanged glances, their skin pulsing with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. After a moment of silent communication, the head counselor spoke. Your proposal has merit, Scientist Xena. We will allow this examination, but it must be conducted under strict supervision. Kevin's heart raced as he realized the implications of this decision. He stepped forward, addressing the council. I'm willing to undergo this examination if it will help foster understanding between our species. The head counselor nodded approvingly. Very well, the examination will proceed. Kevin Hill, you have shown great courage in the face of this cultural misunderstanding. We hope this collaboration will strengthen the bonds between humans and Evora. As the council session adjourned, Kevin found himself walking alongside Xena towards the medical bay. The corridors of the Celestial Harmony seemed to pulse with renewed energy, or perhaps it was just his heightened awareness of the Everin bioluminescence. I appreciate your support in there, Kevin said, breaking the silence between them. Your research might have just saved this diplomatic mission. Xena's skin glowed with a warm pinkish hue. I'm fascinated by the similarities between our species, Kevin. This examination will provide crucial data for interspecies cooperation. As they entered the medical bay, Kevin couldn't help but notice the growing number of Everin crew members gathering outside, their curiosity palpable. The examination was about to begin, and with it, a new chapter in human-Everin relations. Unbeknownst to Kevin and Xena, a pair of eyes watched them from the shadows. Vexer, an ambitious Everin politician, observed the scene with growing interest. His mind raced with the possibilities this situation presented. As Kevin and Xena disappeared into the medical bay, Vexor slipped away, already formulating plans to turn this development to his advantage. Inside the medical bay, Kevin took a deep breath as he prepared for the examination. Xena approached with an array of unfamiliar instruments, her excitement barely held back. Shall we begin? She asked, her voice filled with scientific curiosity and something more. Kevin nodded, acutely aware of the significance of this moment. As Xena's instruments hummed to life, he couldn't shake the feeling that this examination would change everything, not just for human-Everin relations, but for him personally as well. As Xena's instruments hummed to life, Kevin felt a mix of anticipation and nervousness. The medical bay's sterile environment contrasted sharply with the warm glow emanating from Xena's bioluminescent skin. "I'll start with a basic scan of your vital systems," Xena explained, her voice filled with scientific excitement. She moved a handheld device over Kevin's body, her eyes widening as data streamed across the screen. Kevin watched her reactions closely, fascinated by the play of light across her features. "What are you seeing?" he asked, unable to contain his curiosity. Xena's skin pulsed with a vibrant blue hue. "Remarkable! Your internal structure is both alien and familiar. The way your organs interact, it's unlike anything in our medical database." As the examination progressed, Kevin found himself growing more comfortable with Xena's presence. Her gentle touch and genuine interest in understanding human physiology put him at ease. They fell into an easy rhythm of questions and answers, each eager to learn more about the other's species. Hours passed unnoticed as they delved deeper into their biological differences and surprising similarities. Kevin was struck by how natural it felt to be in Xena's company, despite their vastly different origins. "I believe we've gathered enough data for an initial report," Xena said finally, her skin glowing with a soft, pinkish hue that Kevin was beginning to associate with contentment. As they prepared to leave the medical bay, Kevin noticed the crowd outside had dispersed. The corridors of the Celestial Harmony were quieter now, the regular hum of the ship's systems a soothing backdrop to their conversation. "Thank you for your openness, Kevin," Xena said as they walked. "This data will be invaluable for fostering understanding between our species." Kevin smiled, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the ship's environmental controls. "I'm glad I could help, and I've learned so much about the Evora as well. I hope we can continue these cultural exchanges." Xena's skin flickered with a pattern Kevin couldn't quite interpret. "I would like that very much," she replied, her voice soft. Over the next few days, Kevin found himself spending more and more time with Xena, under the guise of further research and cultural exchange. Their conversations ranged from the scientific to the personal, each interaction deepening their connection. During one of their private meetings in Xena's laboratory, Kevin found himself drawn to the graceful movements of her bioluminescent appendages. "I'm still amazed by how you communicate through light," he said, his voice filled with wonder. Xena's skin pulsed with a warm glow. "It's as natural to us as your facial expressions are to you," she explained. "But I find human nonverbal cues equally fascinating, the way your pupils dilate, your skin flushes." Their eyes met, and Kevin felt a sudden shift in the atmosphere. The air seemed charged with an energy he couldn't quite name. Without conscious thought, he reached out, his fingers hovering just above Xena's luminous skin. "May I?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Xena nodded, her own curiosity evident in the rapid pulsing of her bioluminescence. As Kevin's fingers made contact with her skin, a soft gasp escaped them both. The sensation was electric, unlike anything either had experienced before. "Your touch. It's so warm," Xena murmured, her voice filled with wonder. Kevin marveled at the silky texture of her skin, the subtle play of light beneath his fingertips. "And you're incredible," he breathed. Their exploration became more intimate, driven by a mixture of scientific curiosity and growing attraction. Hands roamed, discovering the unique contours and textures of each other's bodies. Kevin marveled at the intricate patterns of light that danced across Xena's skin in response to his touch, while Xena was fascinated by the heat and subtle movements of Kevin's musculature. As their physical intimacy deepened, so did their emotional connection. They shared quiet laughs, gentle caresses, and moments of awe at the beautiful complexity of their interspecies encounter. The line between research and passion blurred, leading them to a profound and unexpected union. Unbeknownst to the enraptured pair, hidden cameras captured their intimate moment. In a shadowy corner of the ship, Vexer watched the footage with growing interest, his mind already formulating plans to use this information to his advantage. Meanwhile, aboard the human section of the Celestial Harmony, Commander Sarah Chen paced nervously. Kevin's prolonged absence and lack of communication had not gone unnoticed. She gathered a small group of trusted crew members in a secluded meeting room. It's been days since we've had any substantial contact with Kevin or the Everin leadership, Sarah said, her voice tight with concern. Something doesn't feel right. We need to find out what's going on. As the human crew began formulating a plan to investigate Kevin's whereabouts, tensions on the ship continued to rise. The delicate balance of the diplomatic mission teetered on the edge, with the personal connection between Kevin and Xena unknowingly at the center of a brewing storm. In the quiet aftermath of their encounter, Kevin and Xena lay together, marveling at the unexpected turn of events. Neither could have predicted the depth of their connection or the potential consequences of their actions. As they basked in the afterglow of their shared intimacy, they remained blissfully unaware of the political machinations and growing concerns that threatened to tear them apart. The celestial harmony continued its journey through the stars, carrying within it the seeds of a conflict that would test the limits of interspecies understanding and the power of personal connections in the face of political intrigue. The blissful aftermath of Kevin and Xena's intimate encounter was short-lived. As they lay together, basking in the warmth of their newfound connection, alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. The harsh sound shattered their peaceful moment, jolting them back to reality. "What's happening?" Kevin asked, his heart racing as he quickly dressed. Xena's bioluminescence flickered with concern as she accessed a nearby console. "There's been an order issued for your immediate quarantine," she said, her voice tight with worry. "They're claiming a potential biological threat." Before Kevin could respond, the door to Xena's quarters slid open with a hiss. A squad of Everin security officers burst in, their skin pulsing with aggressive patterns of light. "Human Kevin Hill, you are to be placed in quarantine immediately," the lead officer announced, his tone brooking no argument. Kevin looked to Xena, confusion and fear evident in his eyes. She stepped forward, her skin flashing with indignation. "On whose authority? There's been no indication of any biological threat." The officer's bioluminescence intensified. "By order of the High Council, based on new information provided by Counselor Vexer. Step aside, Scientist Xena." As the officers moved to apprehend him, Kevin realized the gravity of the situation. He squeezed Xena's hand quickly before allowing himself to be led away. "Don't worry," he whispered. "We'll figure this out." The next few days passed in a blur of isolation and uncertainty. Kevin found himself confined to a sterile chamber, cut off from all contact with both the Everin crew and his human colleagues. The stark white walls and constant hum of life support systems were his only companions. As hours turned into days, Kevin's mind raced. He replayed every interaction, every conversation, searching for clues as to what might have prompted this sudden quarantine. The more he thought about it, the more convinced he became that something wasn't right. On the third day of his confinement, Kevin made a decision. He couldn't sit idly by while the diplomatic mission he'd worked so hard for fell apart. Drawing on the knowledge he'd gained during his time with Xena, he began to formulate a plan. Late that night, when the ship's systems were running on minimal power, Kevin made his move. Using a small tool he'd fashioned from his meal tray, he pried open a panel near his bed, revealing a tangle of circuitry. With steady hands and a racing heart, he began to rewire the communication system. After several tense minutes, a small light on the panel blinked green. Kevin let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. He'd done it. He'd established a secure channel to the human section of the ship. "Commander Chen, this is Kevin Hill. Do you read me?" he whispered into the makeshift communicator. There was a moment of static, then Sarah's voice came through, tense with concern. "Kevin? Thank God, what's going on? We've been trying to reach you for days." Quickly and quietly, Kevin filled her in on the situation. His quarantine, the false reports circulating among the Everin leadership, and his suspicions about foul play. "Something's not right, Sarah. I think someone's trying to sabotage the mission." As Kevin spoke with Commander Chen, he was unaware of the drama unfolding elsewhere on the ship. In a secluded laboratory, Xena and Dr. Zalon huddled over a console, their bioluminescence dimmed to avoid detection. "Look at this," Xena said, pointing to a string of code. "These data points have been altered. The original readings show no signs of biological incompatibility." Dr. Zalon's skin pulsed with anger. "Vexer, it has to be. But why would he do this? Before they could delve deeper, the laboratory door slid open. A group of security officers entered, their postures tense and threatening. "Scientist Xena, Dr. Zalon, you are under arrest for conspiracy against the Averan people," the lead officer announced. As they were being led away, Xena managed to activate her personal communicator. She sent a hurried, coded message to Kevin's quarters, hoping against hope that he would receive it. Back in his quarantine chamber, Kevin's conversation with Commander Chen was interrupted by a soft beep from the room's central console. A message flashed across the screen, its contents encrypted but unmistakably from Xena. With growing horror, Kevin deciphered the message. Xena and Dr. Zalon had uncovered Vexor's deception, but had been detained before they could expose him. The situation was escalating rapidly, and Kevin knew he had to act. "Sarah," he said, turning back to his makeshift communicator, "things are worse than we thought. I'm going to have to go offline for a while. Whatever happens, don't let the Earth government do anything rash. We're dealing with internal Everin politics, not an act of aggression." With that, Kevin cut the communication. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for what came next. It was time to put his knowledge of Everin physiology to use in a way he'd never anticipated. Lying back on his bed, Kevin began to simulate the symptoms of a severe allergic reaction. He knew the Everin guards would be monitoring his vital signs, and he needed to make this look convincing. Sure enough, within minutes, alarms blared, and the door to his quarantine chamber slid open. 2 Everin medics rushed in, their skin flashing with urgent patterns. As they leaned over him, Kevin made his move. In a flurry of motion, he incapacitated both medics with precisely placed strikes, targeting pressure points he'd learned about during his examinations with Xena. Heart pounding, Kevin slipped out of the chamber and into the corridor beyond. He was free, but his journey was just getting started. Somewhere on this ship, Xena and Dr. Zalon were being held captive, and a corrupt politician was on the verge of derailing everything they'd worked for. As Kevin moved cautiously through the ship's corridors, he remained unaware of the larger crisis brewing outside. In the vast emptiness of space, a human military vessel was rapidly approaching the celestial harmony, its intentions unclear, but its presence a stark reminder of how quickly diplomacy could give way to conflict. Conflict could give way to open hostility. Kevin's heart raced as he navigated the dimly lit corridors of the celestial harmony. His mind was focused on one goal, finding Xena and Dr. Zalon. As he rounded a corner, he nearly collided with a group of Everin crew members engaged in a heated argument. "The humans can't be trusted," one of them hissed, his skin flashing with agitated patterns. "We should have never allowed them on board." "But what if the quarantine order is a mistake?" another countered, her bioluminescence pulsing with uncertainty. Kevin pressed himself against the wall, holding his breath as he inched past the group unnoticed. The tension on the ship was palpable, and he knew time was running out. Suddenly, the ship's intercom crackled to life. Captain Zorlax's voice echoed through the corridors, his tone urgent but controlled. "Attention, all crew members. We have received communication from an approaching human military vessel. All personnel are to remain at their stations. This is not a drill." The announcement sent a wave of murmurs through the ship. Kevin's mind raced with the implications. Had Earth sent reinforcements? Or was this the beginning of a conflict that could destroy everything they had worked for? As he pondered his next move, a hand grabbed his shoulder. Kevin spun around, ready to defend himself, only to come face to face with Lyra, the young Everin engineer he had befriended earlier in the mission. "Kevin, what are you doing out here?" Lyra whispered, her skin flickering with a mix of surprise and relief. In hushed tones, Kevin explained the situation. Lyra's bioluminescence dimmed as she processed the information. "I knew something was wrong," she said. "Come on, I think I know where they might be holding Xena and Dr. Zalon." As they made their way through the ship's maintenance tunnels, Kevin filled Lyra in on his suspicions about Vexor. Her skin flashed with anger at the revelation. "We need to expose him," she said, her voice filled with commitment. They emerged near the high-security detention area. Kevin's heart sank as he saw the number of guards posted at the entrance. "How are we going to get past them?" he whispered. Lyra's skin pulsed with a mischievous glow. "Leave that to me," she said, slipping away before Kevin could protest. Moments later, alarms blared throughout the sector. The guards' bioluminescence flashed with urgency as they received orders through their communication devices. As they hurried away to respond to the apparent emergency, Kevin realized Lyra's plan. He quickly made his way to the detention cells, his fingers flying over the access panel as he input the bypass code Xena had taught him. The door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing Xena and Dr. Zalon huddled in the corner of the cell. "Kevin!" Xena exclaimed, her skin lighting up with joy and relief. "How did you—" "No time to explain," Kevin interrupted, ushering them out of the cell. "We need to get to the command center and expose Vexor's deception." As they raced through the corridors, Kevin's communicator buzzed. It was Commander Chen. "Kevin, the situation is escalating. Admiral Reeves is demanding answers, and he's threatening to board the Celestial Harmony by force if we don't receive a satisfactory explanation in the next hour." "Tell him to hold off," Kevin replied urgently. "We're about to blow this thing wide open." They arrived at the command center to find it in chaos. Captain Zorlax was engaged in a heated argument with Vexor, while other council members watched with growing concern. "Captain, you must see reason," Vexor was saying, his bioluminescence pulsing with feigned sincerity. "The humans are a threat to our very existence. We must take action before it's too late." "Enough!" Kevin shouted as he burst into the room, Xena and Dr. Zalon at his side. All eyes turned to them, a mixture of shock and confusion rippling through the assembled Everin officials. Dr. Zalon stepped forward, his skin flashing with righteous anger. "Counselor Vexor has deceived you all," he declared, his voice ringing with authority. "We have proof that he falsified the biological threat data." As Xena quickly accessed a nearby console to display the unaltered research findings, Kevin addressed the room. "There is no threat of biological incompatibility between humans and Evora," he said, his voice steady and clear. "This has all been a ploy to sabotage our diplomatic mission." The command center erupted into a flurry of flashing bioluminescence as the Everin officials processed this revelation. Captain Zorlax's skin pulsed with a combination of anger and relief as he turned to Vexor. "Is this true, Counselor?" Vexor's bioluminescence flickered erratically, his composure crumbling under the weight of the evidence presented against him. I was only trying to protect our people," he stammered, his eyes darting around the room in search of allies. Captain Zorlax's skin flashed with a pattern. Kevin recognized as one of command. "Detain Counselor Vexor," he ordered, his voice firm, "and get me a direct line to Admiral Reeves. We need to defuse this situation immediately." As Vexor was led away by security personnel, Kevin felt a wave of relief wash over him. He turned to Xana, their eyes meeting in a moment of shared triumph and unspoken emotion. But their reprieve was short-lived. "Captain," one of the communications officers called out, her skin pulsing with urgency, "we're detecting multiple small craft launching from the human vessel. They appear to be on an intercept course." The atmosphere in the command center instantly tensed. Captain Zorlax's bioluminescence flickered with rapid decision-making patterns. "Open a channel to Admiral Reeves," he commanded, "and prepare to broadcast on all frequencies." As the communication link was established, Kevin stepped forward. "Captain, let me speak to them," he said, his voice filled with perseverance. "I can explain what's happened and prevent this from escalating further." Captain Zorlax studied Kevin for a moment, his skin pulsing with consideration. Finally, he nodded. "Very well, Mr. Hill. The fate of our two species may rest on your words. Choose them wisely." Kevin took a deep breath, acutely aware of the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. As he prepared to address Admiral Reeves and potentially change the course of human-Everin relations forever, he felt Xena's hand slip into his. Her touch, both alien and familiar, gave him the strength he needed to face the challenges ahead. The communication channel crackled to life, and Kevin began to speak, his voice carrying the hope for a peaceful resolution and the promise of a new era of interstellar cooperation. Cooperation. The fate of two species hung in the balance as Kevin took a deep breath and began to speak. "Admiral Reeves, this is Kevin Hill. I understand the situation looks dire from your perspective, but I assure you, we've just uncovered a major breakthrough. The quarantine order was based on falsified data. There is no biological threat between humans and Evora. There was a tense pause before Admiral Reeves's voice crackled through the speakers. Mr. Hill, we need more than just your word on this. Our sensors are picking up unusual activity on the celestial harmony. I know, sir, Kevin replied, his voice steady. We've had an internal situation, but it's under control now. Captain Zorlax and the Everin High Council are prepared to share all the evidence we've uncovered. Please, call off your approach and give us a chance to explain. As Kevin spoke, the command center erupted into a flurry of activity. Captain Zorlax's skin pulsed with rapid decision-making patterns as he coordinated with his crew to transmit the uncovered data to the human vessel. After what felt like an eternity, Admiral Reeves spoke again. We're receiving your data transmission now, Mr. Hill. Stand by while we analyze it. The minutes ticked by slowly as everyone in the command center waited with breathless expectation. Kevin felt Zena's hand tighten around his, her skin flickering with a mix of anxiety and hope. Finally, Admiral Reeves's voice returned. Captain Zorlax, in light of this new information, we're halting our approach. However, we request an immediate meeting between our respective delegations to discuss these developments. Captain Zorlax's bioluminescence flashed with relief. Agreed, Admiral. We welcome the opportunity to clear up any misunderstandings. As the immediate crisis subsided, Kevin turned to Zena, their eyes meeting in a moment of shared relief. However, their reprieve was short-lived as Captain Zorlax approached them, his skin pulsing with urgent patterns. Mr. Hill, Scientist Zena, your actions today have averted a potential disaster, he said, his tone serious. However, we now face a new challenge. The revelation of Counselor Vexor's deception has created an atmosphere of suspicion and fear among both our crew and your human delegation. Kevin nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders once more. What can we do to help, Captain? Before Captain Zorlax could respond, the command center's doors slid open, revealing Ambassador Thora. Her entrance immediately commanded attention, her bioluminescence radiating authority and purpose. Captain, I've just come from an emergency session of the High Council, she announced, her gaze sweeping across the room. In light of recent events, we've decided to move forward with a bold proposal, a joint human Everin research program. The announcement sent a ripple of surprise through the command center. Kevin and Zena exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of excitement and apprehension. Ambassador Thora continued, However, we must address the growing tensions aboard this ship immediately. Captain Zorlax, I recommend implementing heightened security measures. We need to protect key individuals and areas from any potential threats. Captain Zorlax's skin flashed in agreement. I concur, Ambassador. I'll assign a mixed team of human and Everin security personnel to ensure the safety of our most vital assets and individuals. As the captain began issuing orders, Kevin felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned to find Lyra, the young Everin engineer who had helped him earlier. Her skin flickered with a mix of excitement and nervousness. Kevin, Zena, she whispered. I overheard some crew members talking. There's a group calling themselves the Purity Preservation Front. They're not happy about the idea of humans and Evora working together. I think they might be planning something. Kevin's expression hardened as he processed this new information. He glanced at Zena, seeing his own concern mirrored in her bioluminescent patterns. They both knew that despite averting one crisis, their challenges were nowhere near the end. As if on cue, Kevin's communicator buzzed. It was Commander Sarah Chen, her voice tight with urgency. Kevin, we've intercepted some disturbing communications. There's chatter about a planned sabotage attempt on the ship's life support systems. We think this Purity Preservation Front is behind it. Kevin's mind raced as he quickly relayed this information to Captain Zorlax and Ambassador Thora. The command center erupted into another flurry of activity as they scrambled to formulate a plan. We need to draw them out, Captain Zorlax said, his skin pulsing with rapid decision-making patterns. Mr. Hill, Scientist Zena, your unique relationship has already garnered attention. If you were to make a public appearance in a less secure area of the ship, it might lure these extremists into the open. Kevin and Zena exchanged glances, a silent understanding passing between them. They knew the risks, but also recognized the importance of their role in maintaining peace between their species. "We'll do it," Kevin said firmly, feeling Xena's hand slip into his once more. As they prepared for their risky mission, Dr. Zalon approached them, his bioluminescence flickering with an idea. "I have a proposal," he said, his voice low and intense. "A medical procedure that could temporarily alter your physiologies. It would make Kevin appear more Everin and Xena more human." Kevin and Xena listened intently as Dr. Zalon explained the procedure, their expressions a mix of fascination and apprehension. The idea was bold, potentially dangerous, but also deeply symbolic. After a moment of silent communication, they turned to Dr. Zalon and nodded their agreement. As they were led to the medical bay, Kevin couldn't help but feel that they were about to cross a threshold from which there was no return. The fate of human-Everin relations now rested not just on political decisions, but on their willingness to bridge the gap between their species in the most literal sense. As the medical bay doors closed behind them, Kevin and Xena prepared to undergo a transformation that would challenge the very notions of what it meant to be human or Everin. The stage was set for a confrontation that would test the limits of their newfound unity and potentially reshape the future of interstellar cooperation. The medical bay doors hissed open, revealing Kevin and Xena, their appearances subtly altered. Kevin's skin now bore a faint, iridescent sheen, while Xena's features had taken on a more human-like quality. They exchanged a meaningful glance, both acutely aware of the weight of their transformation. As they stepped into the corridor, alarms blared throughout the ship. Captain Zorlax's voice echoed over the intercom, urgent and commanding. "Attention all personnel! We have a critical situation in the environmental control sector. Security teams, converge on that location immediately." Kevin's hand instinctively reached for Xena's. "We need to get to the environmental control room," he said, his voice tight with urgency. "Whatever the Purity Preservation Front is planning, it's happening now." They sprinted down the corridor, joined by a team of human and Everin engineers. As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with a group of Everin extremists, their bioluminescence pulsing with aggressive patterns. "Stop right there," one of them shouted, brandishing a makeshift weapon. "We won't let you contaminate our species." Kevin stepped forward, his partially Everin appearance causing visible confusion among the attackers. He used this momentary hesitation to his advantage, launching into action with practiced efficiency. His military training kicked in as he disarmed the nearest assailant with a swift move. The corridor erupted into chaos as the two groups clashed. Xena, drawing on her newfound understanding of human physiology, moved with unexpected agility. She ducked under a swinging arm and delivered a precise strike to an attacker's solar plexus, leaving him gasping for air. As the fight raged on, Kevin found himself back-to-back with Xena, their movements in perfect sync. "On your left," Xena called out, her voice cutting through the din. Kevin reacted instantly, blocking an incoming blow and countering with a swift jab. The security team arrived moments later, quickly subduing the remaining extremists. Kevin nodded to the team leader. "Secure them and continue sweeping the ship. We need to get to environmental control." They pressed on, the alarms growing louder as they approached their destination. The doors to the environmental control room slid open, revealing a scene of frantic activity. Engineers scrambled from console to console, their faces etched with concern. In the center of the room stood Krell, his bioluminescence flickering with a mix of triumph and fear. "You're too late," he snarled. "The purification has begun." Kevin's eyes darted to the main display, his heart sinking as he took in the readings. Oxygen levels throughout the ship were fluctuating wildly, dropping to dangerous levels in several sections. "Xena," he called out, "we need to stabilize the life support systems." They rushed to the central console, their fingers flying over the controls. Kevin's understanding of human technology meshed seamlessly with Xena's expertise in Everin systems. Together, they began to unravel the complex web of sabotage Krell had implemented. "Kevin, look at this," Xena said, her voice tight with concern. "They've rerouted the primary oxygen distribution through a series of cascading failures. If we don't stop it, we'll lose life support to half the ship within minutes." As they worked feverishly to restore control, Captain Zorlax's voice came over the comm system once more. "Attention all crew, this is not a drill. We are initiating emergency evacuation protocols for sections 12 through 18. Proceed to your designated safe zones immediately." The sounds of panic and confusion filtered through the open door as crew members rushed to evacuate. Kevin and Xena exchanged a grim look, both aware of the mounting pressure. Suddenly, the door slid open again, revealing Dr. Dalon and a team of scientists. "We have authorization from the High Council," he announced, his skin pulsing with urgency. "We're implementing the experimental atmosphere modification procedure." Kevin's eyes widened in surprise. "The hybrid atmosphere? But it hasn't been tested on this scale." Dr. Zalon nodded gravely. "We have no choice. It's our best chance to save both species." As the scientists began their work, Kevin and Xena redoubled their efforts to undo the sabotage. The room hummed with activity, the air thick with tension. Alarms blared once more as the atmospheric modification began. Kevin felt a strange tingling sensation spread throughout his body, his altered physiology reacting to the changing environment. Beside him, Xena gasped, her skin flickering with rapid patterns. "Are you okay?" Kevin asked, concern evident in his voice. Xena nodded, her eyes meeting his. "It's intense, but I think it's working." As the hybrid atmosphere began to stabilize, a collective sigh of relief swept through the room. However, the moment of respite was short-lived. The doors burst open, revealing a group of purity preservation front extremists. "Stop this abomination!" one of them shouted, charging into the room. In the ensuing chaos, Kevin saw a piece of equipment breaking free from its mounting, headed straight for Xena. Without hesitation, he leaped forward, pushing her out of harm's way. Pain exploded through his body as the heavy machinery struck him, sending him crashing to the floor. "Kevin!" Xena's cry cut through the din as she rushed to his side. Her hands moved with practiced precision, assessing his injuries. Drawing on her newfound understanding of human physiology, she began administering emergency care. As Xena worked to save Kevin, the security team subdued the attackers. The room fell silent, all eyes on the human and Everin working in perfect unison. Captain Zorlax and Ambassador Thora entered the room, taking in the scene before them. The hybrid atmosphere swirled around them, a tangible symbol of what could be achieved through cooperation. As Kevin's eyes fluttered open, meeting Xena's gaze, the full impact of what they had accomplished began to dawn on everyone present. They had not only averted a disaster, but had also opened the door to a new era of human-Everin relations. The crisis was over, but the journey towards true understanding and cooperation between their species was just beginning. As Kevin and Xena helped each other to their feet, their altered appearances a striking visual reminder of their shared experience, they knew that the real challenges and opportunities lay ahead. The immediate crisis had passed, but the true test of human-Everin cooperation was only beginning. In the days that followed, the celestial harmony entered a period of relative calm. The hybrid atmosphere, once an audacious attempt, now permeated every corner of the ship. Crew members of both species found themselves adapting to this new normal, their bodies gradually acclimating to the shared environment. Kevin's recovery progressed at an astonishing rate. The medical bay buzzed with activity as human and Everin doctors worked in tandem, combining their knowledge to accelerate his healing. Xena rarely left his side, her presence a constant reminder of the bond they had forged. As Kevin regained his strength, Captain Zorlax and Ambassador Thora made a momentous decision. They announced a formal ceremony to honor those who had played crucial roles in averting the crisis. The Grand Assembly Hall, typically reserved for diplomatic functions, was transformed for the occasion. Humans and Evora mingled freely, their conversations a mix of verbal and bioluminescent communication. Kevin and Xena entered together, their altered appearances drawing curious glances from the assembled crowd. Captain Zorlax's skin pulsed with official patterns as he addressed the gathering. "Today, we recognize the brave individuals who risked everything to preserve our mission of unity and understanding." One by one, Kevin, Xena, Dr. Zalon, and Lyra were called forward. As they stood before the assembled crew, Ambassador Thora stepped forward, her voice carrying across the hall. In light of recent events, I am pleased to announce that both our governments have officially approved the joint research program, she declared. Furthermore, we will be constructing a new space station specifically designed for long-term human-Everin cohabitation and collaborative studies. A ripple of excitement passed through the crowd. Kevin felt Zena's hand slip into his, their fingers intertwining in a gesture that seemed to embody the spirit of the announcement. As the ceremony concluded, Dr. Zalon approached them, his skin flickering with an idea. "Kevin, Zena, I have a proposition for you," he said, leading them to a quiet corner. "Your unique physiology and intimate knowledge of both species make you ideal candidates to lead a specialized team in designing the living quarters and common areas of the new station." Kevin and Zena exchanged glances, the implications of this offer clear. "It would be an honor," Kevin replied, feeling Zena squeeze his hand in agreement. In the following weeks, they threw themselves into the project. Their workstation became a hub of activity, filled with holographic projections and prototype designs. They grappled with challenges that pushed the boundaries of their understanding. "The sleeping quarters are proving problematic," Zena said one day, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Evora require a higher humidity level for optimal rest, but that could lead to discomfort for humans." Kevin nodded, studying the blueprints. "What if we designed modular units? Each room could have adjustable environmental controls." Their collaboration extended beyond work hours. They found themselves spending evenings together, exploring the ship's recreational areas, and sharing meals in the communal dining hall. Their growing closeness did not go unnoticed. "They're always together," a human crew member whispered to his Everin colleague as Kevin and Zena passed by. "Do you think they're—" The Everin's skin flickered with a pattern that translated roughly to amusement. "Does it matter? They're showing us what's possible." As Kevin and Zena continued their work, political tensions began to simmer. Reports from Earth and Evora Prime indicated growing debates over control of the research station project. Resource allocation, location, and potential scientific breakthroughs became points of contention. Ambassador Thora called an emergency meeting with Captain Zorlax, Kevin, and Zena. "The situation is deteriorating," she said, her usually composed demeanor showing signs of strain. "If we don't act quickly, this could undermine everything we've worked for." Captain Zorlax's skin pulsed with dedication. "We need a solution that satisfies both sides while maintaining the spirit of cooperation." Kevin leaned forward, an idea forming. "What if we created an independent governing body for the station? Equal representation from both species, with the power to make decisions autonomously." Zena's eyes widened, her skin flickering with excitement. "It could work. We could even nominate representatives from the Celestial Harmony crew, those who've experienced firsthand what true cooperation can achieve." Ambassador Thora nodded slowly, her expression thoughtful. "It's bold, but it might be exactly what we need. I'll present the proposal to both governments immediately." As discussions about the future of the research program intensified, Kevin and Zena found themselves at the center of a growing movement aboard the Celestial Harmony. Inspired by their example, more crew members began forming close friendships across species lines. One evening, as they worked late in their shared office, Kevin noticed Zena's bioluminescence flickering with an unfamiliar pattern. "Is everything all right?" he asked, concerned. Zena hesitated before responding. "Some of my Everin colleagues approached me today. They're worried about losing our bioluminescent abilities through prolonged exposure to human physiology." Kevin nodded, understanding. "I've heard similar concerns from the human crew about maintaining our cultural identity." They fell silent, the weight of their position settling over them. Their personal relationship had become a microcosm of the larger challenges facing human Everin cooperation. As they looked at each other, they realized that their ability to navigate these difficulties together would not only shape their own future, but also set a precedent for interspecies relations moving forward. The Celestial Harmony continued its journey through space, carrying with it the hopes and fears of two species on the brink of a new era. For Kevin and Zena, the path ahead was uncertain, but they faced it together, their altered physiology a constant reminder of the bridges they had built and the challenges yet to come. As Kevin and Zena continued their work on the research station designs, Their unique status as hybrid human-Everin individuals began to draw increasing attention from the crew. The once subtle glances and whispers evolved into open curiosity and frequent questions about their experiences. One evening, as they left the mess hall, a young human ensign approached them hesitantly. "Excuse me, but how does it feel, being both human and Everin?" Kevin glanced at Xena, who nodded encouragingly. "It's different," he said carefully. "Sometimes it's like having two sets of senses working in harmony. Other times, it can be overwhelming." Xena's skin flickered with agreement. "We're still learning to navigate this new physiology ourselves." As they walked away, Kevin noticed a group of Everin crew members watching them intently, their bioluminescence pulsing with patterns he now recognized as fascination and curiosity. The next day, Dr. Zalon called them into his office. The Everin scientist's skin was flickering with excitement as he greeted them. "Kevin, Xena, I have a proposition for you," he began, his voice carrying a note of anticipation. "Your unique hybrid status presents an unprecedented opportunity for scientific study. I'd like to conduct a series of examinations to better understand the extent of your physiological synchronization." Kevin felt a flicker of unease. "What kind of examinations?" Dr. Zalon's skin pulsed reassuringly. "Non-invasive scans, blood work, cognitive tests, nothing that would cause discomfort or risk." Xena's hand found Kevin's, their fingers intertwining. "What do you think?" she asked, her voice low. Kevin considered for a moment. "If it could help further human-Everin relations?" "Exactly," Dr. Zalon interjected. "Your participation could be crucial in advancing our understanding of interspecies compatibility." After a brief discussion, Kevin and Xena agreed to participate in the study. Over the next few days, they underwent a battery of tests in the medical bay. As Dr. Zalon and his team pored over the results, word of the study spread throughout the ship. The findings, when released, sent shockwaves through the Celestial Harmony's scientific community. Kevin and Xena's altered physiologies had stabilized into a unique hybrid biology, combining elements of both species in ways previously thought impossible. As Kevin and Xena left a particularly intense examination session, they found themselves cornered by a group of young crew members, a mix of humans and Evora. "Is it true?" one of them asked eagerly. "Can we become like you?" Before they could respond, Captain Zorlax's voice came over the ship-wide communication system. "Attention all crew! Report to the main assembly hall immediately for an important announcement." The assembly hall buzzed with speculation as crew members filed in. Kevin and Xena took their seats near the front, acutely aware of the eyes upon them. Captain Zorlax and Ambassador Thora stood at the podium, their expressions grave. "We've received word from our respective governments," the captain began, his skin pulsing with official patterns. "They've failed to reach an agreement on the governance of the Joint Research Station. The project is at risk of being abandoned." A ripple of dismay passed through the crowd. Kevin felt Xena tense beside him. Ambassador Thora stepped forward. "In light of this development, we're open to alternative proposals. If anyone has suggestions on how to salvage this project, now is the time to speak." Kevin and Xena exchanged a look. In that moment, they knew what they had to do. They stood up together, drawing all eyes in the room. "We have a proposal," Kevin said, his voice steady despite the pounding of his heart. "Xena and I offer to serve as the station's first co-administrators." A hush fell over the assembly, followed by a burst of excited chatter. Captain Zorlax raised a hand for silence. "Explain your reasoning," he said, his skin flickering with interest. Xena stepped forward, her bioluminescence pulsing with grit. "Our unique status allows us to bridge the gap between our species. We understand both human and Everin perspectives intimately. We can ensure that the station operates with true equality and mutual understanding." As they outlined their proposal, Kevin noticed the crowd's reaction. Many nodded in agreement, their expressions hopeful, but he also saw frowns and flickering patterns of disapproval from some crew members. When they finished speaking, Ambassador Thora's expression was thoughtful. "This is certainly an unconventional solution," she said carefully, "but it may be exactly what we need to break the deadlock." Captain Zorlax nodded. "We'll present your proposal to our respective governments immediately. In the meantime, I urge everyone to consider the implications of this suggestion carefully. As the assembly dispersed, Kevin and Xena found themselves surrounded by crew members eager to discuss their proposal. Some offered enthusiastic support, while others voiced concerns about the precedent it might set. Amidst the clamor, Dr. Xylon approached them, his skin flickering with excitement. "Your proposal is brilliant," he said, "and I have more news. A group of crew members has approached me, requesting to undergo hybridization procedures similar to what you experienced." Kevin and Xena exchanged startled glances. Their journey into uncharted territory was only just beginning, and they realized that their personal choices were now shaping the future of human-Everin relations in ways they had never anticipated. As they processed the implications of Dr. Xylon's revelation, the ship's intercom crackled to life. "Attention all crew!" Captain Zorlax's voice rang out, his tone urgent. "We are approaching Everin space. All personnel report to their stations immediately." Kevin and Xena exchanged a look of tenacity. They knew their work was just the beginning. As they made their way to the bridge, the corridors buzzed with activity, crew members of both species rushing to their posts. Upon reaching the command center, they found Captain Zorlax and Ambassador Thora huddled over a holographic display. The ambassador's face was etched with concern as she turned to address them. "We've received troubling reports," she said, her voice low. "A blockade of Everin military vessels has formed ahead. The Purist Alliance has gained significant influence and convinced the Everin High Command to prevent our approach." Kevin's heart sank. "What about Earth? Surely they'll intervene." Captain Zorlax's skin flickered with a pattern that conveyed grim amusement. "Oh, they're intervening all right. A fleet of Earth ships is en route, demanding the return of the human delegation." Xena's bioluminescence pulsed with willpower. "We can't let this derail everything we've worked for. There must be a way to preserve the Alliance." Kevin nodded, an idea forming. "What if we propose a neutral zone, a space equidistant from Earth and the Everin homeworld, where we could establish the joint research station?" Ambassador Thora's eyes widened. "It's bold, but it might just work. We'll need to convince both sides of its viability." "We can do more than that," Xena interjected, her skin flickering with excitement. "Kevin and I can undergo a series of trials to showcase the potential benefits of human-Everin hybridization." Dr. Xylon, who had been quietly observing, stepped forward. "I can oversee these trials. We'll design tests to measure strength, endurance, and cognitive abilities." Over the next few days, as the Celestial Harmony maintained a precarious position at the edge of Everin space, Kevin and Xena subjected themselves to a grueling series of examinations. They pushed their hybrid bodies to the limit, demonstrating enhanced capabilities that surpassed the baseline for both humans and Evora. Word of the trials spread quickly throughout the ship. Crew members gathered to watch, their faces a mix of awe and speculation. A group of human and Everin scientists, intrigued by the possibilities, began exploring potential applications of hybrid biology in various fields. As Kevin completed a test of physical endurance, running on a treadmill long past the point where either a human or Everin would have faltered, he overheard two scientists discussing excitedly. "Imagine the implications for space exploration," one said, her eyes shining. "Hybrid individuals could potentially withstand the rigors of long-term missions far better than either species alone." Her Everin colleague's skin pulsed with agreement. "And the medical applications. We could potentially cure diseases that have plagued both our species for centuries." The excitement was palpable, but it was quickly tempered by the reality of their situation. As Kevin and Xena concluded their final trial, an alarm blared throughout the ship. "All hands to battle stations," Captain Zorlax's voice boomed over the intercom. "We are being approached by both Everin and Earth fleets. Prepare for potential hostile action." The bridge erupted into a flurry of activity as Kevin and Xena arrived. Through the view screen, they could see the imposing silhouettes of warships from both worlds closing in on their position. Captain Zorlax stood at the center of the chaos, his skin pulsing with official patterns. "I'm receiving demands from both fleets," he announced. "Earth wants their delegation returned. The Everin High Command is ordering us to surrender for decontamination." Ambassador Thora's face was pale. If we comply with either demand, it's the end of the alliance. Everything we've worked for will be lost. Kevin felt Xena's hand slip into his, their fingers intertwining. In that moment of connection, a spark of inspiration flashed between them. "Captain," Kevin said, his voice steady despite the tension in the air, "what if we refuse both demands?" Xena nodded, catching onto his train of thought. "We could declare the celestial harmony a sovereign entity, independent of both human and Everin control." Captain Zorlax's skin flickered with surprise, then consideration. "It's unprecedented and extremely risky, but it might buy us the time we need." Without hesitation, the captain opened a channel to both fleets. "This is Captain Zorlax of the Celestial Harmony. We hereby declare ourselves a sovereign entity, beholden to neither Earth nor Evora. Any aggressive action against this vessel will be considered an act of war against an independent state." The response was immediate. Both fleets halted their approach, clearly thrown off balance by this unexpected move. In the tense silence that followed, Kevin turned to Xena. "We need to address both worlds directly," he said, his mind racing. "Show them what we've accomplished, what's possible if we work together." Xena's skin pulsed with agreement. "A broadcast to both fleets and our homeworlds will reveal the full extent of our hybridization and propose the Celestial Harmony as the first embassy of a new, hybrid society." As they moved to the communication station, Kevin felt the weight of two civilizations' futures on his shoulders. He knew that the next few moments would shape the course of human-Everin relations for generations to come. With a deep breath, he nodded to the communications officer. "Open a channel to all frequencies. It's time to show the universe what we can become." "Become?" Kevin said, his voice steady as he addressed the communications officer. The officer nodded, his fingers dancing across the console. "Channel open," he announced, "broadcasting on all frequencies." Kevin took a deep breath, feeling Xena's presence beside him. As he opened his mouth to speak, a violent tremor shook the ship. Alarms blared, and the lighting flickered ominously. "Multiple hull breaches detected," shouted a crew member. "We're under attack." Captain Zorlax's skin pulsed with urgent patterns. "Seal all compartments, initiate emergency protocols." As chaos erupted on the bridge, Kevin and Xena exchanged a determined look. They knew their broadcast would have to wait. The ship's security took precedence. "Captain," Kevin said, "we can help with the defense efforts." Zorlax nodded, his expression grim. "Go. We'll need every able body to repel this assault." Kevin and Xena raced through the corridors, their hybrid physiology granting them enhanced speed and agility. As they ran, they noticed other crew members, both human and Everan, working together to secure vital systems and tend to the injured. They reached a junction where a group of security personnel was engaged in a firefight with black-clad intruders. Kevin recognized their leader, Vex, a known member of the Purist Alliance. "Traitors," Vex snarled upon seeing Kevin and Xena. "You're an abomination against nature." Xena's skin flashed with defiance. "We're the future, Vex, a future you're too afraid to embrace." The couple joined the fray, their unique abilities proving crucial in the close-quarters combat. Kevin's enhanced strength allowed him to overpower a purist trying to breach a sealed door, while Xena's bioluminescence created disorienting patterns that confused and distracted the attackers. As they fought, Kevin felt a strange sensation coursing through his body. His vision blurred, and he stumbled. Beside him, Xena gasped, her skin flickering erratically. "Kevin," she said, her voice strained, "something's wrong." Before they could investigate further, another explosion rocked the ship. The deck beneath their feet buckled, and they were thrown against a bulkhead. As Kevin struggled to his feet, he saw Vex and his followers retreating down a side passage. "They're heading for the power core," Kevin realized, his hybrid intuition kicking in. "We have to stop them." Ignoring the growing discomfort in his body, Kevin helped Xena up, and they set off in pursuit. As they ran, they encountered more crew members, some fully human or Everan, others showing signs of partial hybridization. "Follow us," Xena called out. "We need to protect the power core." The impromptu team raced through the ship's arteries, their diverse makeup a living testament to the integration experiment. They arrived at the power core just as Vex and his followers were setting up explosive charges. "Stop!" Kevin shouted, his voice carrying an otherworldly resonance that made even the purest pause. Vex sneered, brandishing an energy weapon. "You're too late. We'll end this abomination here and now." The room erupted into chaos. Hybrid crew members engaged the purists in combat, their unique abilities creating a dizzying spectacle. Energy blasts ricocheted off walls, and the air crackled with tension. Kevin and Xena found themselves face to face with Vex. As they fought, Kevin felt his body fluctuating wildly. One moment he possessed incredible strength, easily deflecting Vex's attacks. The next he felt weak and vulnerable, barely able to stand. Xena was experiencing similar issues. Her bioluminescence pulsed erratically, sometimes blinding their opponents, other times barely glowing at all. "Your bodies are rejecting the hybridization," Vex taunted as he pressed his attack. "You're falling apart at the seams." Despite their physical instability, Kevin and Xena fought on. Their movements, honed through months of shared experiences, were perfectly synchronized. Where one faltered, the other compensated, creating a fluid dance of combat that kept Vex at bay. The battle raged around them, with hybrid crew members slowly gaining the upper hand against the purists. But Vex, realizing his plan was failing, grew desperate. He activated a powerful energy weapon, aiming it directly at the power core. "If I can't stop this abomination," he snarled, "I'll destroy it all." Time seemed to slow as the weapon powered up. Kevin and Xena, acting on pure instinct, moved as one. They positioned themselves between Vex and the power core, their bodies glowing with an intensity that surprised even them. As Vex fired, Kevin and Xena's hybrid physiologies reacted in a way no one could have predicted. Their bodies seemed to merge, creating a shimmering field of energy that enveloped the weapon's discharge. The resulting explosion was contained within their protective bubble, but the energy surge coursed through their bodies. Kevin felt as if every cell in his being was being torn apart and reassembled. Beside him, Xena's form flickered and pulsed with blinding light. When the energy dissipated, Kevin and Xena stood transformed. Their bodies glowed with a soft, steady light that combined human and Everin characteristics. The fluctuations and instabilities that had plagued them were gone, replaced by a sense of balance and harmony. Vex, his weapon destroyed and his followers subdued, stared at them in disbelief. What are you?" he whispered. Kevin looked at Xena, seeing his own wonder reflected in her eyes. "We are the future," he said simply. As the hybrid crew secured Vex and his followers, Kevin and Xena became aware of a commotion outside the ship. Through the viewport, they could see the Everin fleet in disarray. Several ships had broken formation and were now positioned protectively around the celestial harmony. The ship's intercom crackled to life with Captain Zorlax's voice. "Attention all crew, the situation outside has changed. Commander Lyra of the Everin fleet has pledged her support to our cause. The human fleet is also moving to assist us." Kevin and Xena exchanged a look of hope. The crisis wasn't over, but a turning point had been reached. As they made their way back to the bridge, crew members stopped and stared, awed by their transformed appearance. On the bridge, Captain Zorlax and Ambassador Thora were engaged in intense communication with both fleets and their homeworlds. As Kevin and Xena entered, a hush fell over the room. Ambassador Thora turned to them, her eyes wide. "We were about to send out a broadcast to both worlds," she said. "But I think you two should deliver the message." Kevin nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. He and Xena stepped forward, their intertwined hands glowing with the promise of a new future. As the communications officer prepared to transmit, they took a deep breath, ready to address both species and change the course of history. The camera light blinked on, and Kevin began to speak. "People of Earth and Evora, we come before you today as living proof of what our two species can achieve together. Together. We stand before you as living proof of what our two species can achieve when we put aside our differences and embrace the potential of unity." Xena's skin pulsed with a soft, mesmerizing glow as she continued. "Our journey began with misunderstanding and skepticism, but it has led us to a profound discovery, one that could reshape the future of both humans and Evora. As they spoke, Dr. Zalon burst onto the bridge, his eyes wide with excitement. He rushed to Captain Zorlax, whispering urgently in his ear. The captain's skin flickered with surprise, then understanding. Kevin and Xena paused, sensing the shift in the room. Dr. Zalon approached them, his voice trembling with barely held back excitement. "I've just completed a new round of scans on your physiology," he said. "The results are extraordinary." The doctor turned to address the assembled crew and the countless viewers across both fleets and homeworlds. "Ladies and gentlemen, what we're witnessing here is more than just a successful integration of two species. Kevin and Xena's stabilized hybrid physiology has unlocked previously dormant genetic potential in both human and Everin DNA." A murmur of astonishment rippled through the bridge. Kevin felt Xena's hand tighten in his, their shared excitement palpable. Dr. Zalon continued, his words measured but filled with awe. "This development could revolutionize our understanding of both human and Everin biology. The implications are staggering: enhanced adaptability, resistance to diseases, and possibly even the ability to survive in environments previously thought inhospitable to either species." As the doctor spoke, Kevin became acutely aware of the changes in his body. The soft glow emanating from his skin pulsed in harmony with Xena's bioluminescence. He felt stronger, more alert, and strangely in tune with his surroundings. Xena stepped forward, her voice clear and confident. "What Dr. Xalon is saying is that our hybridization isn't just about combining the best of both worlds. It's about unlocking potential that neither of our species could access alone." Kevin nodded, picking up the thread. "We stand before you not as diminished versions of humans or Evora, but as something entirely new. We are the bridge between our peoples, living proof that our differences can be our greatest strength." As they spoke, the mood on the bridge shifted. The tension that had permeated the air since the arrival of the two fleets began to dissipate, replaced by a cautious optimism. Ambassador Thora, who had been listening intently, stepped forward. Her eyes shone with a mixture of hope and grit. "Captain," she said, turning to Zorlax, "I believe we have an opportunity here to change the course of history." The ambassador addressed the broadcast, her voice steady and clear. "People of Earth and Evora, I propose we embrace this new chapter in our shared history. Let us establish a series of hybrid colonies on previously uninhabitable planets. Volunteers from both our species can undergo controlled hybridization, allowing us to adapt to new environments and solve the resource scarcity issues that have long plagued our worlds." The proposal sent shockwaves through the assembled fleets. On the monitors, the faces of Earth and Everin leaders displayed a range of emotions: surprise, skepticism, and growing interest. Kevin and Xena exchanged a look of wonder. They had hoped for acceptance, but this, the possibility of a whole new future for both their peoples, was beyond their wildest dreams. As the implications of Ambassador Thor's proposal sank in, the communications channels erupted with activity. Leaders from both worlds demanded more information, asked probing questions, and began to see the potential benefits of such an unprecedented initiative. Dr. Zalon and his team worked feverishly, compiling data and projections to support the ambassador's proposal. They sent report after report, demonstrating how hybrid physiology could allow for adaptation to a wide range of environments, from high-gravity worlds to planets with toxic atmospheres. Hours passed in a blur of negotiations and explanations. Kevin and Xena remained at the center of it all, their transformed bodies serving as living proof of the potential that lay before both species. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the leaders of Earth and Evora reached a decision. The president of the United Earth Coalition appeared on the main view screen, flanked by the Evoran High Counselor. "Citizens of Earth and Evora," the president began, her voice solemn but tinged with excitement. "After careful consideration and in light of the extraordinary evidence presented to us, we have decided to support the establishment of the first hybrid colony." The High Counselor nodded, his skin pulsing with official patterns. "The celestial harmony will serve as the initial base of operations for this historic endeavor. We call upon volunteers from both our peoples to step forward and become part of this new chapter in our shared history." As cheers erupted across the ship and throughout both fleets, Kevin turned to Xena. In her eyes, he saw the same mix of emotions he felt: joy, apprehension, and an overwhelming sense of responsibility. "We did it," he whispered, pulling her close. Xena's skin flickered with a kaleidoscope of colors. "No, my love," she replied, her voice soft but firm. "We've only just begun." As the celestial harmony prepared to embark on its new mission, Kevin and Xena knew that the journey ahead would be filled with challenges. But as they stood together on the bridge, their hybrid forms a testament to the power of unity, they felt ready to face whatever the future might hold. The ship's engines hummed to life, and the stars outside the view screen began to shift. The celestial harmony set course for the unknown, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of two species on the brink of a new era of exploration and cooperation.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.